I spent 5 years pursuing Jaden Montgomery with every ounce of my strength. After my 100th confession, he finally went from being my best friend's brother to my fiancé. On a night with a full moon, as I stood there in my dress, ready for our mating ceremony, I overheard his conversation with a friend. "Jaden, are you really going to hold a mating ceremony with Arabella?" Of course. Lillian's a fragile omega carrying my pup, and my alpha father is quite displeased about this situation. Holding the ceremony with Arabella will put his mind at ease. Jaden laughed carelessly. "Aren't you worried that Arabella will find out and go after your precious omega? She's the princess of the Northern Silver Wolf Pack, after all." "She won't. She loves me to death and would never harm my pup. Besides, she's gentle and obedient. Making her my future Luna will ensure my precious omega stays safe." My mind went blank. In my desperate flight from the scene, I accidentally wandered into a patch of wolfsbane. When I woke up, I remembered every wolf except Jaden. So when my parents called to tell me to return for the arranged mating, I immediately arranged to leave in 5 days. Chapter 1, my mating ceremony with my fiancé Jaden was approaching, yet I had unexpectedly discovered he had fathered a pup with another she-wolf. I was nothing more than a tool he had chosen to keep his alpha father quiet. I returned home, pulled out my suitcase, and began packing. My best friend stared at me in disbelief. "Arabella, are you really going through with this arranged mating?" I kept packing. "Yes, I've already arranged everything. I'm leaving in 5 days. Beryl Montgomery hesitated. "Can you really bear to leave this place? To leave my brother?" I frowned. "Why wouldn't I be able to? I have no memory of your brother. Did I love him or something?" Beryl picked up my phone, opened the Notes app, and handed it to me. "You loved him to death. Everything is recorded here. Your entire 5-year pursuit of him." I scrolled through hundreds of densely packed pages. My chest felt tight, as if a heavy stone was pressing down on it, making it hard to breathe. There were 100 confession records and 100 different rejection responses. The only thing they all had in common was that every single one mentioned a third person's name: Lillian Rosewood. Berührt seid, Herr Expressionkamp. Lillian is his unforgettable first love, the she-wolf he has always kept in his heart. But she's an omega. She's too lowly in status to be with my brother. I locked the phone screen. What's there to miss about an old wolf who rejected my confessions 1,000 times? The young wolf I'm going to mate with this time is much better. What are you two talking about? What old wolf? What arranged mating? A cold voice came from behind us. I spun around sharply to see a tall figure leaning against the doorframe. It was Jaden. His eyes were icy, filled with irritation and impatience. "Arabella, what kind of game are you playing this time?" His tone was cutting, as if everything I did was just to get his attention. Beryl hurriedly tried to explain, saying, "Jaden, Arabella has..." Yet before she could say the word amnesia, he cut her off. "Did I ask you? Are you in any position to speak right now?" Jaden snapped back mercilessly. "Arabella, I've already agreed to hold the mating ceremony with you. I expect you to behave yourself. Lillian is carrying my pup now, and her body is fragile. If you cause trouble for Lillian at a time like this, don't blame me for what comes next." His tone was domineering, leaving no room for argument. I was stunned for a moment, and then fury surged through me. "You scum! If you're so protective of her, why don't you just go live with your little she-wolf?" Jaden had not expected me to lash out at him either. He froze, and then his expression became even more vicious. He strode up to me, grabbed my wrist, and dragged me toward the door. The wounds on my back from the wolfsbane had not fully healed yet. When he yanked me like that, the cuts tore open again and blood seeped through my clothes. Jaden threw me violently to the ground. My abdomen slammed into a sharp corner of a table, the pain so intense I could not speak for a long moment. "Jaden, what are you doing?" Arabella is your future Luna. How can you treat her like this over another she-wolf? Beryl rushed over to help me up. However, Jaden shoved her away with one hand, was savage as he walked over to me and threw a punch straight into my stomach. With the heavy sound of impact, my internal organs felt crushed together. I clutched my belly and collapsed to the ground in agony. Jaden pulled back his fist and looked down at me coldly from above. Arabella, I thought you were someone who knew your place, but it turns out you're just as scheming and vicious as the rest. This is just a warning. Every time you manipulate Beryl, I'll hit you until you learn your lesson. I finally understood how I had gotten all those bruises on my body after waking up. After all, I was the princess of the Northern Silver Wolf Pack, yet someone had dared to lay hands on me. Also, the full moon festival banquet is approaching. I originally wanted Lillian to accompany me, but I don't want her to face gossip. I'll bring you instead so that people won't talk. This isn't a discussion, it's a notification. Be at the pack altar by 8 p.m. the day after tomorrow. Don't keep me waiting. With that, he didn't spare me another glance and left without looking back. I lay on the ground, my body burning with pain. But my heart was strangely calm. No matter what, I was still his fiancé. There were certain appearances I had to maintain, so I would fulfill this duty one last time. Just 5 more days. In 5 days, I would embark on my new journey. Chapter 2, there were 3 days left. These past few days, aside from nursing my injuries, I had been holed up in my apartment, throwing out useless things. Looking at the pile of belongings stacked like a small mountain in the living room, I silently threw it into the trash bin by the door. Among them were the 1,000 love letters I had written to Jaden, the 365 custom meal plans I had created for him, and 100 moonstone bracelets I had handwoven for him. There were 108 plane tickets to his pack territory, as well as protection charms I had obtained by kneeling before the moon goddess at the altar for 3 days and 3 nights, praying for his safety. After throwing away the last item, I let out a long breath of relief. The moment I turned around, my heart skipped a beat. Jaden was standing at the doorway, and I had no idea when he had arrived. Those unpredictable eyes stared straight at me, then moved to the pile of trash. He frowned, his voice carrying a trace of incredulous hoarseness. Why are you throwing them away? My tone was ice cold. Useless garbage obviously needs to be thrown out. The moment those words left my mouth, I felt an incredible sense of relief. However, Jaden did not feel the same way. He clenched his fists tightly, veins bulging on the back of his hands as if he were desperately restraining something. I thought I was about to receive another brutal beating like last time. Yet instead, Jaden took a deep breath and said in a stiff tone, I was too impulsive that day. After the banquet ends, I'll move forward with the mating ceremony and officially make you my future Luna. Did not respond and continued to pack my things. Just then, the front door opened. I saw Lillian holding a key to my house, smiling as she wrapped her arm around Jaden's. Jaden, I heard you're taking your fiancé to the banquet. I want to go too. As Lillian spoke, she did not forget to toss me a sideway glance, watching for my reaction. I raised an eyebrow, my face showing not the slightest ripple of emotion. I remained focused on packing my belongings, not even sparing her a glance. Seeing my reaction, Jaden looked shocked. Normally, whenever Lillian showed up, I would throw a fit no matter where we were. I would make a scene until I had worked myself into a rage. However, seeing my unusual behavior now, this complete indifference was probably making him start to panic. In a fit of anger, Jaden agreed to Lillian's request. On the way to the banquet, the atmosphere in the car was strangely tense. He unconsciously began showing off his affection for Lillian right in front of me. One moment, he was tenderly brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. The next, he was asking in a soft voice whether her stomach felt uncomfortable. He spoke just loud enough for me to hear. When he checked my reaction through the rear-view mirror for the 7th time, he still saw the same emotionless expression on my face. Jaden's expression suddenly darkened, and he gripped the steering wheel so tightly it creaked. When we arrived at the banquet, he brazenly took Lillian's hand in front of everyone. Everyone there was stunned. The full moon festival is such an important holiday, and you're still bold enough to bring this one. The one who spoke glanced at me, his eyes filled with sympathy. He shook his head and sighed quietly. Arabella used to be so bright and cheerful. Now, look what you've turned her into, Jaden. You're something else. Whispers arose around us, and unabashed stares fell on me. I heard this Omega is Jaden's true love, and she's even carrying his pup. If it weren't for her lowly status, the future Luna position would have been hers. Don't let Arabella's indifferent act fool you. She's probably furious on the inside. She's really keeping up the pretense. Even when faced with everyone's criticism and mockery, I paid no attention to any of it. If this had been me pre-memory loss, I would have stormed out in anger after hearing such insulting words. Yet now, having forgotten everything about Jaden and feeling no love for him, I naturally would not pay attention to those mocking glances. However, appearances still mattered. I was still Jaden's fiancé, and there were certain social situations I had to handle. I moved through the crowd with him, exchanging empty pleasantries and drinking glass after glass of wine. Soon, I became dizzy from the alcohol as I was unable to handle it well. I found a quiet spot to rest. I had just sat down when I saw Lillian holding a blue medicine bottle and shaking pills into her mouth. Was startled. The medicine bottle slipped from her hands, rolling several times before stopping at my feet. I picked it up and sniffed it. Since I had studied medicine, I immediately recognized the scent. These were pills that faked pregnancy symptoms. You're not pregnant. Lillian spun around, her eyes filled with viciousness and wariness. So what? Are you going to snitch? I shook my head indifferently. There's no need. I don't love Jaden anymore. I'm determined to leave, so naturally I won't interfere in your affairs. Really? Lillian looked at me with deep suspicion. I nodded honestly. Seeing that I did not seem to be lying, Lillian relaxed slightly. However, just as I turned to leave, Lillian suddenly rushed at me while clutching a sharp silver knife. I reacted quickly, blocking the blade that was about to pierce my body. But the next second, the knife tip suddenly changed direction and plunged straight into her own abdomen. Lillian's face twisted grotesquely as she forced out an eerie smile. I don't believe you, and I can't leave any loose ends. Then, she screamed and collapsed straight into a pool of blood, clutching her stomach while letting out agonized wails. Jaden came rushing over at the sound, his face instantly turning pale at the scene before him. He hurried forward, carefully lifting Lillian. Lillian, what happened? Lillian gripped her stomach tightly. Arabella was jealous that I'm carrying your pup. She stabbed my stomach with a silver knife. Had not expected Lillian to go this far to cover up her lies. I was about to explain and tell Jaden the truth, but he had already been consumed with rage. His eyes were blood red and filled with murderous hatred. With a roar, he shifted into wolf form and viciously kicked my stomach. I staggered several steps and tumbled down the stairs, my head slamming hard against the cold floor. I felt like my organs were twisting together in agony. My barely healed wounds tore open again. Everything went dark, and my consciousness grew increasingly blurred. Before I completely blacked out, the last image I saw was Jaden carrying the sobbing Lillian, walking downstairs without looking back. He appeared cold and resolute. I could not hold on anymore. My eyelids grew heavy and fell shut as I fainted. Chapter 3. When I opened my eyes again, I was staring at a white hospital ceiling. Arabella, you're finally awake. Beryl's eyes were red and swollen. Beryl, carefully help me sit up. You've been unconscious for 2 days and nights. I was worried sick. 2 days? Has it really been 2 days? My voice was barely a whisper. There was only 1 day left before my departure. Beryl wiped her tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Arabella, you lost your pup. Lost my pup? Those words exploded in my head like thunder. I lost my pup, my body trembled uncontrollably, and tears poured down my face. Beryl tried to comfort me, saying with a heartbroken voice, "It was just over a month old, barely formed yet. Arabella, try to stay calm. You're still young. You can have more pups." I squeezed my eyes shut, sobbing as every inch of my body convulsed in pain. Just as I was beginning to calm down slightly, the hospital ward door was violently kicked open with a loud bang. Jaden's expression was terrifyingly dark. He stormed over to my hospital bed and angrily demanded, "Arabella, why did you kill Lillian's pup?" My body was weak, and I struggled to open my mouth to defend myself. No, it wasn't me. I didn't hurt her. She stabbed herself, and her pregnancy was fake too. You can ask the doctor to check. However, Jaden's eyes held only hatred. He suddenly reached out and dragged me from the bed while I was still hooked up to N4. The needle pulled free, causing blood to splatter everywhere. "Arabella, you make me sick." Jaden dragged me toward the door. Beryl cried out in alarm and rushed forward to stop him, but Jaden ruthlessly shoved her aside. "Jaden, how can you treat Arabella like this? She has amnesia. She doesn't even know who that woman is. How could she possibly hurt her? And you don't know that Arabella was also—" "Shut up!" Jaden roared, cutting off Beryl's words. His gaze was savage enough to devour someone. "You backstabbing little bitch, do you know who you're talking to? If you dare conspire with this woman again, don't blame me for exiling you to the wilderness." Jaden was consumed with rage. He was in no state to listen to any reasoning. He dragged me to the neighboring hospital ward and threw me violently to the floor. Lillian lay weakly on the hospital bed. "Arabella, look what you've done. The doctor said Lillian was carrying a female pup. How could you be so heartless? You should repent for what you've done." I lay on the cold floor, pinned down by two large betas. I could not move and could only cry out helplessly, "It's all fake. She was never pregnant. Go ask the doctor." Jaden's cold eyes swept over me as he lifted his foot and kicked my abdomen viciously. "You're still denying it? Arabella, if you still want to become my future Luna, then get out of here and reflect on your actions. When Lillian is discharged, you'll take care of her to atone for what you've done." I bit my lip to keep the tears from falling. "Fine, I'm leaving." I used every ounce of my strength to stagger to my feet and limped out of the hospital ward without looking back. Watching my resolute, retreating figure, Jaden felt an inexplicable ache in his heart. However, his attention was quickly drawn back to the moaning she-wolf on the hospital bed. He stayed to care for her until midnight before dragging his exhausted body home. When he reached home, the mansion was empty. There was not a soul in sight, and it was terrifyingly quiet. "Arabella." Jaden suddenly felt a panic and frantically called my name, but he received no response. He searched every corner of the mansion, but could not find any trace of me. Disappeared. In desperation, Jaden reached out to Beryl through the mind link. "Beryl, is Arabella with you?" Beryl was silent for 2 seconds before saying calmly she went back to her own pack for an arranged mating. "Oh, and there's something else. Right before you forced her to kneel and apologize to Lillian, Arabella had just miscarried your pup." Jaden's heart lurched violently. Miscarriage? Arranged mating. Chapter 4. Jaden's head buzzed as he shook it and muttered in a low voice, "Impossible. How could she be pregnant? It's all fake. You must be working with Arabella to deceive me. What kind of game are you two playing this time?" Beryl let out a cold laugh. "Arabella was already over a month pregnant, and you didn't even know." "Over a month?" Jaden suddenly remembered the banquet from over a month ago. He had been drugged with an aphrodisiac by rival pack members. In his delirious state, he called Arabella over to help him endure the night. Could it have been then? His entire body began trembling at the thought. "No, I have to find her." Jaden shot to his feet. seemingly having made some kind of decision. You want to find her? Beryl sounded like she had heard the joke of the century and said mockingly, Isn't Arabella leaving perfect for you? Now you can bring Lillian home. She's been waiting for that future Luna position for ages. With that, Beryl cut the mind link. Beryl! Beryl! Jaden could no longer sense any response, and immediately panicked, his heart racing so fast it felt like it might burst from his chest. He closed his eyes, and all he could see was Arabella's resolute figure walking away. His obsession with Arabella consumed his rationality, and his heart felt like it was being pierced by countless sharp needles. Jaden forced himself to calm down. Even though it was the middle of the night, he immediately booked a flight to the Silver Wolf Pack territory, grabbed his coat, and rushed into the darkness. He soon arrived at a completely unfamiliar pack territory where he knew no one. Finding someone here seemed impossible. He wandered aimlessly through the streets, not knowing where to go. During this time, Jaden had called Arabella countless times, but her phone was always turned off. Contacting her family and friends yielded nothing either. With no other choice, he could only drag his friend over to help him search. His friend rushed over from another pack territory on short notice. As soon as he got off the plane, he saw Jaden collapsed on the side of the road, constantly running his hands through his hair. He was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Seriously, Jaden, what the hell has gotten into you? You used to go on and on about loving Lillian, and you did everything you could to humiliate Arabella. You practically trampled all over her. We thought you had made up your mind and cut her off. His friend looked exasperated. Now, you're searching the entire world for Arabella. What's this all about? Do you suddenly like Arabella now? Then, what about all that humiliation before? Jaden's eyes were vacant, like he had lost his soul. He shook his head. I don't know what I feel for her now, but I know I have to find her and bring her back. Seeing his broken state, his friend did not know what else to say. Maybe you should check your home. There might be some clues. A spark lit up in Jaden's eyes, and without another word, he flew back home. Jaden practically turned the house upside down, refusing to leave any corner unchecked. He searched from dawn until evening before finally finding a hospital miscarriage slip in the trash. His hands would not stop shaking as he held the paper. He fell to his knees and let out an anguished wail, indescribable grief flooding his heart. Only then did he realize that he had killed his own pup with his own hands. His friend patted his shoulder, trying to console him. Arabella loved you for so many years. She won't give up on you that easily. Find her, get on your knees and cry and beg. Maybe she'll soften up and forgive you. Jaden suddenly shot to his feet like he had grasped his last shred of hope. Yes, I'll find her and get on my knees. As long as Arabella comes back, I'll do anything. He had just stood up and had not even taken a step when two strong betas suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his path. The betas' expressions were emotionless as one of them said, Please come with us. The Alpha wants to see you. Chapter 5, The Wolf Palace, had an eerily strange atmosphere. The air was as cold as an ancient, never-melting glacier. Jaden was kneeling in the center of the hall, not daring to breathe too loudly. All the elders sat along the sides of the great hall with grim faces, watching him coldly. Jaden said tremblingly, Father, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated Arabella like that. I swear I'll bring her back home, and we'll have the mating ceremony right away. The Alpha spoke, his voice full of disappointment in his son. I didn't want to interfere in your private life. It's normal for an Alpha heir to have lovers, as long as they cut things off cleanly before the mating ceremony. I would have turned a blind eye, but you actually slapped Arabella in the face for some mistress. It's absolutely foolish. The Alpha pointed at Jaden. Now, Arabella has returned to the Silver Wolf Pack. She knows your true purpose for being with her and has severed our alliance and the centuries of cooperation that have bound us. This whole mess has blown up. How do you expect the alphas of other packs to trust us or work with us? Jaden felt like he had been struck by lightning and could barely stay kneeling. His face went pale, and his voice was hoarse as he said, She knows everything? She knows why I agreed to be mates with her." Beryl let out a light laugh, her tone dripping with mockery. "Of course. She heard your little chat with your buddy at the bar loud and clear. Then she had that accident where she fell into the wolf's bane, lost her memory, and even miscarried. Are you satisfied with those results?" Miscarried, hearing the word again, Jaden still could not accept it. After hearing that, the alpha felt even more heartbroken, and his facial features scrunched together in pain. "You fool! That was our pack's bloodline, a future alpha. And you got them killed, you useless piece of shit." Beryl walked up to Jaden and handed him a piece of paper. "This is proof of the pills Lillian got from the witch to fake her pregnancy symptoms." "Jaden, how incredibly stupid can you be? You killed your own real pup for a pup that never existed." After reading the proof, Jaden completely broke down and collapsed helplessly on the ground, his eyes vacant and lifeless. He felt like an absolute idiot, completely ridiculous and pathetic. Jaden used every ounce of his strength to prop himself up and swore to the heavens, "I'll find Arabella and bring her back. I'll earn her forgiveness, no matter the cost." Chapter 6. I had not fully recovered from the wolfsbane poisoning and miscarriage when I made the long journey back to the north. The exhaustion from days of travel made me collapse the moment I saw my parents. When I opened my eyes again, the scent of disinfectant filled my nostrils. I turned my head to see Mom's terrifyingly red eyes that were filled with heartbreak. My precious daughter never suffered any hardships growing up. Just look at what that pack put you through all these years. The miscarriage and wolfsbane damage to your uterus means you probably won't be able to conceive again for the rest of your life. Dad clenched his fists, veins bulging at his temples. He ground his teeth audibly as he shifted back and forth between human and wolf form. Do they think throwing some money at us will make up for what they did to my daughter? I'm going to mobilize troops and flatten his entire pack. I could not bear to see Dad waste resources and hurt people because of me, so I forced a smile to comfort them. It's okay, Mom and Dad. It's all in the past. I'm fine now, aren't I? Besides, the wolfsbane made me forget a lot of things. I've forgotten Jaden completely. He hurt me, so to me he's just a stranger, a criminal. I'll never forgive him. Tears streamed down Mom's face. Forgetting is good. Our pack has no shortage of handsome male wolves. There are plenty who are much better than him. She wiped her tears and forced a smile. Once you're healed, I'll introduce you to more handsome young wolves. Dad frowned and shot Mom a look. Don't be ridiculous. The light, cheerful atmosphere swept away the gloom that had been clouding my heart, and I couldn't help but smile too. The days passed slowly under my parents' careful care. A month later, my injuries had mostly healed, and I could finally be discharged from the hospital. Even though my parents were busy with pack affairs every day, they still made time to spend with me. To keep myself occupied, I volunteered to take on some of Dad's administrative duties as alpha, helping him manage pack business. On an ordinary afternoon, I went to deliver a few documents to him. When I pushed open the door, I saw a handsome, cheerful young male wolf. He was tall with incredibly refined features. The sunlight streaming through the window fell on him like a golden halo, but he looked quite young, with an innocent, inexperienced look on his face. I stared in shock, and the documents I was holding scattered all over the floor. Seeing my flustered reaction, Dad quickly figured out what I was thinking and shook his head. Come here, Arabella. This is James Fable. He's a few years younger than you. This is the perfect timing for you two to meet. Chapter 7. James was the Alpha King's only son and heir to the throne. He had come to my pack to discuss a potential partnership with Dad. After the meeting ended, James approached me. Arabella, this is my first time visiting this pack territory, and I'm not very familiar with it yet. Could you show me around? The unique scent of a young werewolf made my cheeks flush red the moment he got close. I instinctively smoothed my messy hair and smiled nervously. Of course. The evening breeze was especially gentle, lifting my white floral dress and flowing hair. We strolled slowly along the forest edge as I explained the Silver Wolf Pack's history and the buildings we passed. He did not speak and just listened quietly, looking at me with eyes that seemed to overflow with sweetness. Suddenly he asked, "Arabella, did you just get out of the hospital recently? You don't look like you're feeling well." James had a beautiful voice, making my soul feel soothed. I froze for a moment, feeling awkward. "Yeah, I was just discharged not long ago. I'm still recovering." His brows furrowed almost imperceptibly, and he seemed to want to ask something more, but in the end he chose to respect my privacy and did not press further. James' gaze drifted to the distance, and suddenly he spotted something and ran over like an excited pup. When he came back, his hands were full of colorful moonstones. He smiled. "Arabella, look at these moonstones. Aren't they gorgeous? They could be made into bracelets and necklaces. You'd look absolutely beautiful wearing them." His smile was like gentle rain, tenderly nourishing every barren inch of my heart. I paused for a moment, then smiled back at him. "Yeah, let's collect moonstones together." We played happily in the forest like pups. With this, the atmosphere between us was no longer awkward. Instead, it was filled with laughter. We did not head back until it was completely dark, chatting and laughing the whole way like old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. Just as we reached my house, James suddenly stopped and turned around, looking at me seriously. "Arabella, I'm really happy I got to meet you." My heart pounded. "I'm happy to meet you too, James." James smiled at me, his gaze full of affection. Even someone as oblivious as me could read what he was trying to express. "So, Arabella, would you be willing to be with me?" James asked earnestly. Faced with James' confession, I hesitated. My failed relationship with Jaden was like a sharp thorn piercing deep into my heart. The painful past would cast a shadow over my entire life, and I could not bear to deceive innocent James. I took a deep breath and confessed to him, saying, "I've had a failed relationship before, and my uterus was damaged because of it. I probably won't be able to have a pup for the rest of my life." I thought James would be disappointed when he heard this, but his voice became even more determined. "I don't care whether you can have a pup or not. I like you. I've liked you since I was very young. But back then, you only saw me as a little pup. When I grew up, you went to Jaden's pack, so I had to keep waiting for you. Now, I've finally got my chance. I hope you'll accept me and complete a mating ceremony with me soon." I was stunned for a moment, but somehow found the courage to trust him completely. I nodded. "Okay, yeah, accept." "Really?" James' eyes suddenly lit up, and his body trembled with excitement. "I'll go see the Alpha King right away to discuss the ceremony." James ran off excitedly, as if he could not wait another second. I watched his retreating figure, smiling. Chapter 8. In just a few days, James had arranged a meeting with the Alpha King. My heart was filled with anxiety and, just as we were about to meet, a familiar figure appeared before me. Jaden's eyes were vacant and lifeless, as if he had lost his mind. The moment he saw me, his empty eyes suddenly lit up. He scrambled toward me on his hands and knees, bowing his head repeatedly. "Arabella, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I truly realize my mistakes now. I've been searching for you for so long that I nearly turned the entire werewolf world upside down. If you'll just come back with me, you can hit me or curse me. I won't complain about anything. Please, I'm begging you to come back with me." Seeing Jaden kneeling before me, like a broken man, begging for my forgiveness with tears streaming down his face and hitting his head on the ground, I felt nothing. No matter how heart-wrenchingly Jaden cried, I remained unmoved. Instead, I found his behavior disgusting. "Now you know you were wrong? When you kicked my stomach and dragged me to apologize to Lillian while I was at my weakest after the miscarriage, Why didn't you realize you were wrong then? Jaden prostrated himself on the ground, burying his head deep in the dirt. I promise I'll never do it again. Arabella, I truly love you. I can't live without you. I'll send Lillian away so that she'll never appear before us again. I let out a cold laugh. You say you love me? Do you even deserve to? I don't remember you anymore. Don't disturb my life again. With that, I turned to leave without looking back, but Jaden grabbed my arm. Can we start over? You once pursued me for 5 years. Now I'll win you back. I'll show you my determination. I yanked my arm away forcefully, feeling disgusted. Even if you pursue me for 100 years or 1,000 years, I wouldn't even give you the time of day. Jaden would not give up and continued pestering me. Just then, a tall figure stepped in front of me. Who are you? What are you trying to do to my fiancé? Jaden frowned. What do you mean, your fiancé? Arabella is my fiancé. James recognized who he was, and his expression darkened. So, you're the asshole who put Arabella through hell. I was planning to deal with you privately, but I never expected to run into you here. Instead of hiding, you actually have the guts to come here and try stealing my fiancé? Today, I'll teach you a lesson. James let out an angry roar as he leaped up and shifted into wolf form. He began wrestling with Jaden. Though James was younger than Jaden, he showed no mercy in the fight. Each punch landed viciously on Jaden's face. Soon, Jaden could not take it anymore and was defeated. Jaden lay on the ground with blood streaming from his forehead as James stepped on him and ground him down. Blood seeped from the corner of Jaden's mouth. The sound of their fighting drew the betas from the palace, and Jaden was ultimately expelled from the pack on charges of assaulting the Alpha King's heir. Chapter 9. James and I quickly grew closer. At the upcoming meeting with the Alpha King, he did not hold my tragic past against me. On the contrary, he praised my courage in pursuing a new life for myself. The Alpha King had a very good impression of me and immediately agreed to James at my mating ceremony, allowing me to become the next Luna Queen. Over the following period, James busied himself with preparations for the mating ceremony, handling everything personally and arranging every detail perfectly. He said I did not need to worry about anything. I just needed to dress beautifully and attend in formal attire on the day. Soon, the much-anticipated day arrived. But just as the ceremony was halfway through, there was a commotion outside. Jaden burst in with torn clothes, looking like a madman, shouting, Arabella, you can't be with him. You're my fiancé. Only I truly love you. James frowned, clearly displeased that the ceremony had been interrupted. I don't recall your name being on the guest list. By this point, Jaden had completely lost his mind. He desperately rushed toward me, without caring about the strange looks from the surrounding pack members. James waved his hand, and a group of burly betas blocked Jaden's path and dragged him away. After this minor disruption, the mating ceremony resumed. Under the witness of all our people, we made our lifelong vows to the moon goddess. The ceremony ended perfectly amid cheers and blessings from everyone. Meanwhile, Jaden had his legs broken by the betas and was thrown into the forest. He was eventually taken back to his pack by Beryl, who had come to attend the mating ceremony. Due to his leg disability, Jaden became completely dejected and lost his right to inherit the alpha position. The alpha role ultimately went to Beryl, who also had alpha bloodline, making her a rare alpha female. Lillian also got her wish and became Jaden's mate. She was forced to take care of the disabled Jaden every day. After I left, Jaden became increasingly unhinged. Having lost his inheritance rights, his temper grew more and more violent. When Lillian cared for him, he would beat and berate her whenever things did not go his way. They were destined to be entangled together for life, living in misery. The person who hurt me had received his due punishment. Several years later, the Alpha King stepped down, and James officially became the new Alpha King. At his coronation ceremony, he announced to all werewolves that I was his Luna Queen. He held my hand as he said this, making me feel incredibly secure. From then on, I would assist him in managing the pack and become a worthy Luna Queen.